This podcast has topics in relation to death, suicide and drug use. This may be confronting for some listeners.
As veterans and first responders, we also use some dark humour in this episode. We ask that you keep in mind that dark humour is a timeless and research-supported method.
I just wanted to use that for dark humour.
I was like...
Yeah, I know. You were killing it. You were killing it. Hang on. Do it again. Anyway, we're on. That's disappointing. I was going to get you on that one. I was impressed. Where was that from? Sound of Music? The thing's on. You can talk into it.
Back on the Imposter podcast in the Simpson Desert, under the stars.
Indeed. Who are we here with today?
Rod Henderson.
That wasn't very enthusiastic, was it? It's probably about where it is.
Published author. Former soldier.
We got it for you. You're welcome. Rod Henderson, published author. Get around him.
Where can I go from this?
Stop screaming, I'm scared too.
It is indeed the name of the book, but I guess as an opener, I've done a few podcasts. I'll blow my own horn. Do you have a blow my own horn sound?
Best I can do is...
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think it's a trombone.
However, if there's one podcast I should really be on, it is this podcast, the Imposter podcast. I am absolutely spec for this, so I'm good to go. I'm
ready?
Pumped. Yeah,
feeling good?
I'm good.
Why did it take us 3 days then?
Yeah, well, because I don't like you. Anyway.
This is going to go well.
I'm stuck in the Simpson Desert, mate. Where else am I going to go?
We've got a hostile audience here today, people.
Some say stuck, some say...
No, we're good. We're good. Mm-hmm. No, I'm happy to be here. Let's do it.
Right, so we were going to go through your history and all that sort of stuff, but not many people care, and they can also...
will care.
No, they can go to Zero Limits. What episode are you?
114. 114, yeah.
114.
Yep.
That is a while ago.
Yeah, it is a while ago.
Maddie is going through the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, you've got to start somewhere, and he ended up with you, so I assume it'll fold.
I'll be honest, I think he's played his trump card early, and it's been going backwards.
No, well, you play the card you give him, mate. Mm-hmm. What can you do with it?
But you do have a very interesting military history, so if people want to go to Zero Limits, they can hear a long interview with you about all that.
A very long interview, which this won't be, I'm sure. I'll get wrapped up pretty quick, no doubt, but... We'll see how this goes, where it pans out. I don't know, we're starting, so...
Yeah, mate, we've been going for 10 minutes. It's been terrible so far.
Yeah, this is...
Only ways up at the moment.
This is an awful introduction. Anyway, I was on another podcast, and now I'm on this podcast, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll do a link to the other one, because we know that he gave me a rider before, Al. I don't know if you know. There's no speaking about the colour pink.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else. It was plug the...
Butterflies.
Yeah, can't speak about butterflies.
Especially not pink butterflies.
Yeah. Plug the book within 30 seconds or I'm leaving.
And we still haven't done it.
I led with it.
Yeah.
I said, stop screaming, I'm scared too. That's fair enough. Twice I've mentioned it and it's been 2.5 minutes.
Did you say stop screaming, I'm scared too? That is a good book title.
So how did the book come about? How does one go from a soldier to
This is what Al does.
Thank you, Al. Thank you. Thank you for being the adult in this conversation. I'm going to turn my back to him. So, mate, true story. Started out, about the time I was doing that Zero Limits potty, I had a manuscript. I thought I had a story, but it was a manuscript. I started to write down all the stupid stuff and crazy stuff, everything that I did in my time in service. And I just thought it was a good way of sort of getting it out of my head. And then went through that process and found it, absolutely cathartic. And I had some help from a lot of people, family, obviously, but also some people from the Warm World website. Am I getting wrapped up, or is that
cowbell?
Yeah, it's not one of your sound effects.
Utensils in the campsite.
I thought I was going too long. Anyway, long story short, before the cow comes back in the Simpson Desert, no, I had some really great mates there that helped me out, and they said that quite simply that you're right for 3 reasons. One is to get it out of your head, which I'd pretty much already done. The other one is to get it down for history, for your family, and the third one is because everyone's got a story, and I sort of wrote it for all 3. Last one being to keep it as part of the history. So that's why I started writing it all down, mate. And it came out over a whole bunch of chapters, and I was lucky that I got picked up by a publisher, and they helped me turn it into the book that it is today. It's just crazy because I never thought I would ever write a book. Look, I think I'm a big believer of everyone's got a story. Absolutely 100% into that. And you'll be surprised what you can do if you just start writing stuff down. And there is some storytelling in the way you do it, but everyone's got a story within them. And whether you make it into a book, put it on a podcast, there's so much that can really come out and can help you if you just start writing or getting things down or to an extent talking about it.
So because you work at the War Memorial,
yep,
is that when you sort of thought, well, hang on a minute, these guys are guys just like me that were in different circumstances. Did you think I'm going to write this down for my family, or what?
Yep.
Was there actually any idea of it being a book, or was it literally just
not at the start? It was just for those reasons to get it out of my head to put it down for my family and to keep it as a bit of history, and to do all that. So it just kept linking together, and next thing you know, it's a proper manuscript polished up and sent it out to the world, and got way more rejections than I got than I got offers. But I was very fortunate that Big Sky Publishing picked it up, and they loved the title. They loved the book cover, the photo.
Is a good photo.
Yeah, and I was determined to have it. I had an experience with another publisher before Big Sky that helped me to an extent with the manuscript, but they were determined that I wasn't going to have the title that I have now or the photo on the cover. But I was determined to stand my ground because it was important to me to have that. Anyway, luckily enough, I have a good relationship with Big Sky Publishing that have helped me get it out there to the rest of the world. So yeah.
Has the being on Maddie Morris's podcast, has that helped you in any way with that, or is that just completely sidelined?
No, completely separate. I guess that was that's been a step to my journey in telling my story. Because I was on a podcast before that with Life on the Line podcast, and it was hard coming from a space, because we work in jobs that you never talk about yourself, right? You're seen as an absolute outsider if you start talking yourself up. So you're always taught to be humble. And so when I met these guys at the War Memorial, they convinced me I should do an article with one of the writers there, and so I did that. And it over nearly 2 years, and yes, COVID was in there too. But when it came out, I was absolutely shitting myself because don't ever talk yourself up. Don't ever talk about I, talk about we. And it was the first time I just I let it go and spoke to her. And then it came out online, and then suddenly these people are saying, "Oh, you should come on this podcast." And I didn't have Instagram. I didn't know what the fuck Instagram was. And my son's like, "Hey,
you do now though, set in the back."
Yeah, 100%. These people say, "Oh, you should come on this podcast or that podcast," and yep, spoke with Maddie Morris, and went on his podcast, and yeah, it was great.
So it went from doing an article with the War Memorial,
with Claire Hunter at the War Memorial, yeah,
and then from there you went to Life on the Line.
Yep.
And then you went to Maddie Morris.
That's right, yep.
At any of those three stages, did you feel like your story was worthwhile yet?
No, not at all. Not at all, mate.
You didn't feel better after any of them?
I did feel better, but it's that classic thing, mate. And I think I said it on the start of Maddie Morris's podcast. I feel like a freaking imposter, especially with the caliber of some of the blokes that he has on.
Oh, yeah, like it's gone to shit now.
Yeah. I mean, they've had you on.
Yeah.
So I'm free and clear.
The other
hopefully
thing
he gets me back as part 2.
I mean, we've deferred people to listen to Zero Limits, but we should give a bit of an overview of what you have done. You're a soldier in the 3rd Battalion, which was our parachute battalion in Australia at the time. You then went to be, I called it a loadmaster, but air crew in Black Hawks, and then in Chinooks.
Yeah, that's right.
And I understand you've been in a crash in a Chinook as well.
I have, yeah.
So
well, heavy landing, I think they
landing.
They call
very,
it.
very
we heavy landed
landing.
it to death. Yeah,
it used to be 6 foot.
But that sounds like a pretty damn interesting story,
mate. It was, and I'd sort of hate to hang my hat up on just that.
Crashing.
Being
that your sole job is to not crash an aircraft.
Well, you know what? It's the fucking pilot's job, mate. I'm just a backseat driver.
It was definitely an engine malfunction or something, surely.
No, it was, just a shit pilot. So I take that back. I take it. Don't edit that out.
No, you're right. He'll come on the podcast after you.
No, I take that back.
The other thing you commented on yesterday, and I can't remember exactly how you said it, but you said there's a lot of special forces that have written books, a lot of pilots. Do you remember what you said after that,
mate? 100%. There's, and that's part of telling my story. Feeling that imposter syndrome. There's a lot of special forces dudes that have written books, a lot of Victoria Cross recipients, a lot of generals, and I don't for a minute try and take anything away from the shit those blokes did, but there's a 98% of the rest of the army, and don't quote me on those statistics, but there's a lot of other people in the army, and whether it's inferiority complex or whatever it is, a lot of people may not want to step forward and tell their story because they may think that they didn't really do anything, but you know what? It really is one of those things that I was fortunate to go through the busiest time in the history of the Australian Army for deployments, and so I did get to go to a lot of really interesting places and see and do a whole bunch of really cool stuff that I just thought was normal. But when you sit down and you start writing it down, you'll find that the stuff you did and all the things that you thought were normal are just are very different to other people, and it's a bloody good yarn. You don't have to be that guy, diving out of a helicopter and stabbing Osama bin Laden in the face. You can have done a regular career in the military and still have an amazing story, or in the police force or first responders, whatever it may be. I mean, there's plenty of people in a regular 9-to-5 job out there that have got friggin' amazing stories of challenge and triumph in their life too.
I can guarantee you, if we spoke to that bloke that just sputtered in today on his bike, he'd have an interesting story.
Bloody oath he would. I reckon one of them be tonight how he got picked up. He's having a sirloin and a beer when he could have been out there as dingo food. So,
and it's his birthday.
Yeah, and his birthday in the desert.
What was his plan? He was going to cross the Simpson and back.
Yep, from Birdsville
I think
to
there's
Mount
a record
Dare
that he was trying to challenge
back.
today.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
But he could be an accountant in his normal day.
Yeah. Let the record show he made a quarter of the way, though. So it's better not to try than...
Should we get his name so we can rag on him publicly?
You need the wop thing for that.
Adam. I don't know what your last name is, Adam, but you're welcome.
In talking to you in the last few days, just like you're saying, some of the most interesting anecdotes you've had have been, about sort of day-to-day life in the military and the funny things and the pranks and that sort of thing. They're probably the little, punctuations that actually create a story. Like, it is easy for me to list off things like a helicopter crash and it's, a bit of a headline, but I think they're, what probably makes a good book is actually something that you can resonate and feel yourself, doing that or living through that.
To be fair, when he was talking about the pranks and stuff, he didn't say he enjoyed them.
Well, true.
Mark and I enjoyed them.
There's case in point. Last night, Alex was sitting by the fire, and he'd had a few beers, and he said to us, "What's the most? What's your take home from the biggest crazy thing you've ever done in the army?" And instead of talking about crazy shit like helicopter crashes, whatever it might be, Burso and I, to a T, spoke about all the stupid shit we did and had a laugh. It would have been easy to go to the doom and gloom, but it's those sorts of moments that I think about that are really just the funny shit.
My favourite times was when Rod would ring up and he'd be like, "Can you transfer me through to such and such?" Like, yeah, no dramas, straight to the sour.
Yep.
And then he'd ring back and go, "Don't fuck with me this time. Do it again."
For
Obviously,
a bit of context as well.
I think context is important right now.
Burso was one of your soldiers, and so was Clay Marks, who we've just interviewed, who runs this frontline safari that we're on here. And you seem to have mixed feelings about catching up with these guys sometimes.
No, fuck, I wonder why. So
does Burso feature in the book? Should we read it to find out which bits are about him?
I'm not saying anything so I can get $30 out of him. I don't get 30 of it, but look, quite frankly, it's freaking awesome coming back and running into these guys again and working with them again. Absolutely stand up blokes.
This is
turkeys.
second or third
Absolute
time on
fucking turkeys to work with. And I tell you, as their troop sergeant, it's turned me into the grey fat man I am today. But, oh, look, good bunch of blokes, mate. And if I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't. And if quite literally in the middle of Australia, and I couldn't think of anywhere I'd rather be right now.
Well, it's funny because we had two other blokes from, I think they were in our troop as well, Ports and BK.
Yeah.
They were both trying to come along to this, but they had stuff there. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, like it's been a good 12 plus years.
Yeah, I saw Ports last year
Yep.
on this, and I speak with BK off and on a bit. Yeah. He's out now too.
Yep.
I'm always putting the feelers out to try and get as many blokes on this because, as you know, I mean, we've only gone through the desert for a couple of days now, but we've been on the road for, 4 or 5. Everyone starts at Frontline Safari. No one knows anyone's name, and everyone's all standoffish. And by about this time, everyone's standing around the fire, drinking beers and working hard the next day and enjoying it. It's a bit of a shared experience coming through the desert like this. It's great.
The big difference I saw was as soon as we lost reception, and you're like, well, you know, like everybody was off on their phones doing whatever, and you know, like I mean, some of us are influencers, so we have to, but you know, got to schedule podcasts and stuff.
The further we've got from cities, I think the more and more you relax and open up. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the reality is you have to, right?
Speaking of influencers,
and especially, and especially quite literally in the middle of sort of bumfuck Idaho, you have to rely on each other.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily life on the line sort of stuff, but it's, you know, you have to rely on yourself to help me fix this tyre, or, you know, I need some fuel, or come and help this bloke, he's fallen off his bike. And these are shared experiences that some of these people that have signed up for this ride, or even for the 4 driving, are going to take away and remember.
You know, you speak about storytelling. I mean, this is gaining life experience. This is adding to their story.
Yep.
It's pretty unique. I don't know how many Australians percentage-wise would cross the Simpson Desert, but it wouldn't be a lot. And it's, you know, in a tour group like this, it's totally accessible.
Yep.
Like anybody could come and experience this.
Absolutely, mate. I've been not all through Europe, certainly not through sort of Eastern Europe, but you know, through Europe, UK, USA, all the other places with the army, top places like Pakistan and Sri Lanka. But I'd never been out here to my own country. And if I thought I was in a remote place, you know, out the back in the deserts of Afghanistan, that is absolutely nothing compared to being out here, how remote that we are. And it really takes it home when you look at the reality of the situation out here. You are almost in the absolute geographical heart of Australia. And if something goes wrong, there's no golden hour, like they chime on about in the military. You are at best 3 hours from an operating table. It's really unique experience, and I hope that doesn't freak out people that think about that. But
yeah, that's really gone the opposite of what Clay was saying before. We were like, come out and have a go.
Well, it does speak to doing it with a competent tour group.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Frontline Safari.
Yep.
I mean, this is a veteran-based company that has people with medical experience, very experienced in sort of search and rescue operations. So, you know, if you do it like that, you can alleviate any of that concern and risk.
And problem solvers, you know, and it could be problem solvers like this track's flooded, we have to go this track, right through to tonight. The bloody burners didn't work on the barbecue and the Leatherman's coming out and we fixed it. Like I've never been more comfortable. I'm driving in a couch. We've had sirloins tonight. It's just amazing.
And despite the fact this is high quality audio, we're plugged into an inverter on a Land Cruiser, you know, recording in the desert under the stars.
I didn't realise there was such a schmozzle going on over there. You guys kept that under us really well.
It was, mate, it was a shit fight. Absolutely.
There was emergency stations over there and we were just podcasting.
No, we're good. We're good. We've made it. Yeah.
So we have had another author on, but she is an erotic novelist, so very different genre.
Well, look, to be fair, I haven't read his book, so...
Mate.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, there could be...
There could be some stuff in
Anything
there.
could happen when the sheepdog comes out.
Oh, here we go.
Look out.
We're trying to get a sponsor here. Sheepdog whiskey.
Sheepdog whiskey.
Yeah,
Peanut
cool.
butter
We don't
whiskey.
have a whiskey alliance yet. So.
No, we don't.
So
That's how quick it happened. We just got sponsored. Sheepdog whiskey.
Speaking earlier, everybody has a story. We've talked to a lot of other people as well about, writing is kind of a form of therapy, or, being interviewed as well, getting your story out, which a lot of our colleagues don't. What's the best way to do that? Did you start with a bit of pen and paper? Did you just go for the computer and just write?
Just start with the timeline is my experience. Start jotting stuff down as a timeline, and that doesn't necessarily need to be pen on paper. I had it on my phone, and I'd be talking, with blokes like you or Burso, and Burso would say, I remember that time in
when you charged me.
Yeah, and for the record, it was an infringement, as it turns out. And he's only brought that up when we were out in the desert. I'm worried he's going to bury
And he was
it.
late 47 times.
Correct.
Right?
There was 47 previous. Anyway.
It's a pattern
I like the way
behaviour.
you took that as.
Where's your womp womp? Oh.
That's what happens when you control the buttons. Let's go back to that day you charged me.
So anyway, no, look, I just started jotting stuff down like that, like charge Burso on, whatever, he went to the gallows on blah, and I would write that down, and then after the timeline filled up, then it just linked in between those points. So that's how it
As in
became
you
a thing.
start filling out the story.
Yeah,
and
just
adding
filled
more
out
and
the
more
story
detail.
in between. And when I was here last year, I puffed out my chest and I'm like, I spoke to Lee, who's got Traverse magazine. Traverse magazine.
Shout out to Traverse. Great,
He's like,
motorcycle travelling
if you
publication.
think you can write, then why don't you write an article for me? And I'm like,
that's how it started.
Yeah, I've got to put my money where my mouth is.
Before.
And so I just sat down and bashed it out and sent it to him. And I thought he'd go, nah, mate, not a chance. And, he'll tell you a different story. But he said,
We'll ask him, don't worry.
yeah, ask him. He said, mate, it was really good. He said there's a lot of editing.
Did you publish it?
He published it.
Oh, jeez.
That was my first published. Thank you.
So, question. No offense. There's.
Oh, why are you looking at me
started
saying
out
no
as an
offense?
infantry soldier.
Here we go.
Yeah. He's trying to insult both of us at
But-
once here.
Like how does anybody write? How do they learn to punctuate and form the story? Like, is it just practice?
Oh, I see where he went
Do you
there.
have to have someone like Lee that can help mentor you through that? I think there's a lot of online writing programs now.
For the layperson at home, Al's saying, as an idiot, how did you manage to write
Honestly,
a book?
Professional.
honestly, okay. Towards the end of my book, I got so confused with how to write because I'd written so many words. I was looking up there and they and there.
Oh,
That
two
one
and
gets me
two
all the
gets
time.
me.
Then and then. Mate, I had to go.
He, her, and they.
I'd been banging that out all my life, and I was so confused with what they want. Colon, M dash, all that sort of shit.
Shout out to the Australian public school system.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I should have stayed at school. Good. No, I should have stayed at school. But kids stay at school. So, look, that's the beauty, I think, of what a publisher brings. And I work with some really awesome people. Shout out to Alison from Big Sky, who saved me. And David Cameron, who is the
Alison
the
only
editor.
gets one name and David Cameron gets both.
Yeah, Alison Patterson. Yeah.
Oh, good.
So all published authors as well. Great people.
Alison Patterson. That's just going to get weird. Sheepdog whiskey.
Yeah, that makes it less weird. Way less weird.
So if you have a good story, despite, anybody's sort of literacy skills, will they work with you and develop that story?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I can only speak from my experience, right? So I just wrote it down. I made some submissions and got knocked back a whole bunch of times. And fortunately, like I said, started to work with a publisher and then developed and went into a different publisher. I'm glad Big Sky do it because they do a lot of military books. And they really helped me develop the story. And when I say develop, there was no structural changes to a story. They're not like change your timeline around and also the previous editor wanted me to do that. And I'm like, well, that didn't happen in that order. It's not right. And I wasn't getting really good vibes from that.
You didn't want to get the whole based on a true story thing. You were just like, this is my true story.
That will happen with the movie, though, when they film Stop Screaming, I'm Scared Too.
Yeah. But when I'm starring in it, I'm just going to change.
Yeah, I'll take
I'm going to do a bit
any of the Hemsworths.
bit of improv stuff.
Yeah, any of the Hemsworths.
We don't have
Probably the one with the dad bod,
That was a suit.
the god dad bod.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's a suit. No, we work same makeup artist. Oh God, where are we going with this?
You're talking about
that's right.
getting one of the Hemsworth. For your movie.
Getting one of the Hemsworth. No, we were talking about how to write a book.
Well, for
Big Sky Publishing weren't changing your thing.
They didn't make structural changes. They weren't trying to. I won't say screw with the timeline. They didn't want to change the timeline around. I wanted it to be true to my memory, but it's weird because I'd be sitting in an aircraft and there might be 3 other people in the aircraft and there'd be 4 different versions of events. And I would contact each one of those people that I can remember being there and say, hey, do you remember this? And fortunately, most of them would say, yeah. There'd be the occasional, no, it was like this. I would, as long as it was all sort of true, and I did the same with the infantry side of it too.
Was that because you didn't want to tell your story, but like their story?
There was definitely a part of that. There's a lot of name dropping in there because it goes back to that. Don't talk about I, talk about we.
What the team
right?
did.
But at the end of the day, like the publisher's saying, like, you know, my wife was bloody great in it too. It's actually your story, and it's hard, like we said at the start, to get over that imposter syndrome. You don't want to talk about yourself, but it really is my story, and it's. I say it at the start of the book. This is what happened from my eyes. This is how I see it. Some other people might have seen it differently, and I had people that I've spoken to from my time in infantry, and they were telling me stuff about I couldn't even barely remember. That's probably been the best thing out of this experience is catching up and reconnecting with people I haven't spoken to in 10, 15, 20 years. And for some, and look, full disclosure, for some reasons, I was an absolute freaking jerk too. There's some people who, had the shits of me from years ago, and when I
Can't confirm.
Yeah. Fuck, there's one sitting right next to me. And as soon as I go to him, say, mate, I was a dick 20 plus years ago. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. Fuck, shake hands and. A
lot of the time, that's the same from them. They're like, mate, we're not the same people we were then, and we were very gung ho, young, excited to be there. All the testosterone, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what?
Now we're just fat.
I got, except for the fat thing, I got one of the exact same replies from a bloke, almost to a T, mate. It's crazy. That's been the most rewarding part of it.
The other thing with and I think it's interesting because a lot of people wouldn't have bothered chasing that up with other people to sort of go, mate, this is how I remember it. This is how it went.
Yep.
So I think that's where your case for your story is a little bit different. Where a lot of people are like, this is my story, and you'd written it out as how it was, but you're like, I don't want to say some shit that didn't happen because I don't want to let people down or talk for them.
I was dying on a hill over it. I had to speak to as many people that were there, and which, as I said, turned out to be really good because I reconnected with a whole bunch of people. And unfortunately, the people I couldn't reconnect with through Facebook or whatever you try and get onto, I had to put them down as blogs or whatever. But I really wanted to include their name because for me, they all played a big part in my experiences and my bloody development along the way. So there is still some, I don't know, what is it called, pseudonyms or whatever it is. But
did you actually use blogs?
No,
blogs?
I didn't actually. But
Private Jones?
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
There's a few cliche names.
But I really wanted to, and not that I was legally obliged to.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I should get people's permission before I put their names in the book, or at least make sure that they're happy with the sequences I speak about. Because, like I said, there's 4 or 5 other people in the aircraft at the time. There's 10 of us in a section doing the same thing. Yep. I wanted to make sure that my version of events was at least 10% truth, right? So,
I think there was a thing I saw on, it might have been LinkedIn, that you might have written that was about how you were talking about the we, like we did this, we did that, a group of us did this or whatever. And then in a resume, people don't want to read that in the corporate world. They're like, what did you do?
Yep.
And it's really hard coming from Army where it's everything's team.
Yep.
And then you're like, well, I did this part and then the team did this, and then it's just hard to say I. Yep. So that was a really interesting thing to read when you did that, because I remember having some interviews and they're like, oh, what did you do? I said, yeah, we did this as a crew. We did that. We worked really well together. And it's funny, like, yeah, but what did you do? And then some other bloke came and goes, I filled the vending machine. And they're like, love it. Took ownership. He's all about it.
You're in, yeah.
You're like, wow, that's weird.
So that was actually the second article I ever wrote that got published. Was in the RAR magazine, the Royal Australian Regiment magazine. Got linked up there through some mutual friends, and I wrote exactly an article on that. There is an I in team, and it was about that transition out and how to use your soft skills that you've learned and be proud of your service and look within for what you can bloody achieve. Because
I've stolen that multiple times.
Yeah, go for it. But
and
mate,
not once credited you.
Oh, go for it, mate.
Where can people find that? Because that's
I'd
like to read.
I don't know what edition it is.
It's on his LinkedIn.
Yeah, it would be.
Which is Rod Henderson, author.
Yeah, so it is.
So if you'd started accepting that...
Sorry, I did that Iron Team stuff, and I've actually got a funny story about the Iron Team. I went through the same...
As a me? Or?
No,
gotcha.
I went through the same interview process when I was going for the cops. So, full disclosure, I did apply for the cops.
It's the first time I've had a bug crawling on my microphone.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to get in. But I got asked exactly that. They've said, we've heard a lot about, exactly what you said, heard a lot about what you can do. What we can do. What have you actually ever achieved as yourself? And that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, I've never spoken about me. It's about us and we as a team. And that's
which ironically is going to make a better employee or team member, but it's not how hiring processes work.
But yeah, it's all
The other thing that's funny is because when you were in the army and it was happening and you knew you were doing all the work, you're like, those fucking bastards are taking credit for everything I did. And then you one chance to shine and you're like, no, we did this. We did that.
And the hardest thing is like when I was an instructor at RMC and I had to look after all these poor
Royal Military College.
Thank you. Sheepdog. That are probably pretty senior officers by now. But I had an officer around me that was poor at making decisions and would really make some Barry Crockers. And I'm a big believer of don't go in there and ever say, the boss said this, the boss said that. Because you've got to go in there and take ownership and give it as if it's your decision, right, as the sergeant. And it's hard. It really is hard. It's easy to throw someone under the bus and get some credit with the boys.
I used to love that.
You'd know this. You've had to put
it's easiest sale ever. Hey, guys, we've got to do this. Why is that? Because the fucking boss said so. All right, so put a minimal effort in because we're doing it regardless.
I think I'm going to get fact check here with this story. This is coming undone on me really quick. Because I remember coming out of the office a few times and just going, all right, you blokes, let's go and get this done. And but so it goes back to that Iron Team stuff. You are part of a team and sometimes people of all different ranks, and I'm sure you've seen it in the cops too, are going to get shit wrong. But you have to back them and support them as best you can because you're part of that team.
Especially if you haven't brought that up at the time. There's plenty of people that will just listen and go, yep, no worries, boss, and then go off and shit can them.
Yep.
Like if you're not willing to stand up to the boss and say,
yep,
there's some flaws here, these are the issues.
Yep.
Then don't badmouth him when you leave.
Yep, I did it plenty of times.
Badmouth him when you left?
No. Well, it's different.
No, just wait till I had a book. I wrote them all then.
I certainly made my my concerns known, and they went backward and forward in letting me know if I'd stuff up too. And I it's a two-way street with that.
And that's sometimes you can lead up the chain. Yep. They might not listen, but you still have to do it.
Yep. And you know what? Sometimes you might not agree with it. You've just got to go and fucking do it. Mm.
You can also be wrong.
100%. More often than not.
Yeah.
And when you actually sit down and accept that, I think you actually fucking grow as a person. I don't want to get all feng shui. That's not even correct. But isn't it about moving furniture around or some shit?
Placing furniture in rooms.
It's very similar.
There's a correlation.
Oh, definitely. Mate, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
But
it's the Benoit. It's the feng shui.
It's the vibe.
Benoit balls. Don't worry
about it. The vibe.
You can Google that, people.
Righto. Not out here. But look, the reality is you've got to cop it yourself sometimes. And that's probably what irks me is people, and I didn't when I was younger. A lot of people don't. But you've got to cop it when you're wrong. And a lot of people won't.
Oh, can't stand it.
Yeah. Mm. I mean, there's dying on a hill over what you believe, but then sometimes you've just got to go, you know what, I stuffed up. And I guess what really I found about this book, because I had to go back and really eat a lot of humble pie and speak to some dudes from 3rd Battalion when I was in time there and go, you know what, I was a fucking dick when I did this, or I got this wrong, or whatever it might be. And like he said, a lot of them just went, who gives a shit, mate? It was 20 or 30 years ago. Like, we were all young and stupid
They'd
then.
done the same thing to the next person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or they'd done it themselves and hadn't done up to whatever it was. But the reality of what they're saying was, who gives a shit? We were sort of the same, yeah.
You know, and it's stupid, but one of the biggest things that I had that was a real eye opener was that Kermit the Frog looking out a rainy window, sipping a tea meme.
Yeah.
You know, and it was an aviation one at the time. It was like, I wonder if that bad landing's still thinking about me.
Yep.
And then I went, that applies to so many things. You know, like I've been punching myself in the agates over you charging me, and it wasn't even a charge.
Infringement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And you hadn't thought about it in 14
I hadn't
years.
thought. I didn't even know.
But he
First
was,
time you know.
He was bonding you to him by thinking
I
about the
didn't
charge.
think I'd charged anyone.
Trauma bonding.
And I haven't, as it turns out. I'm actually charged for it.
You know, if he'd accepted that he was guilty and he'd been doing it, then
I know,
it
right?
would have
I know,
resolved.
we'll
The
see.
irony
Loop would have
coming from a police officer too. I just can't accept it.
Or literally, as we were talking about it, I was like, he's right, you know. Like, I was late a few times. I probably do need to accept that.
Yeah, in fact, I probably was.
So
because
if
we're
you
all growing,
started,
learning.
But look,
Yeah.
take ownership. If it was 47 times before you did it, you probably should have stepped up earlier as a leader.
So it's my fault. You're right, actually. That is pretty poor leadership. Yeah. I should have stolen the shit out of you. Had you killed at the start. Yeah.
Well,
Fuck.
you would have thrown a burning couch at me back in the day.
Yeah, true.
Got soft
true.
in your old
There's
age.
plenty of that happened in the 3rd Battalion. I wouldn't have been able to lift it then. I was too fat.
So
Yeah.
once you started seeing the story as your own, and you said you got a few knockbacks, how did you handle that, and why did you not stop at the first one? What made you press on?
Look, fuck, good question. I started to write, and I got a bit of confidence with the article in Traverse magazine, and then again in the RAR, because it was people that were completely independent of me, and they said, that's a good article you can write. I'm like, wow. And it was only 1,500 words or 2,000 words, and then another whatever. And then I started to put it down in chapters for my mates at the War Memorial, and they're, published authors, but also well educated. And that was the other thing, because I was, classic imposter syndrome. I didn't even finish friggin' school, so I can't write a story.
Al literally led with, how did you write a book?
Yeah.
So let's not get too imposterish. Like,
But I just flicked it to them, and they're like, you can write. Like, there's an art to being able to tell a story, and I'm fortunate enough to have it, whatever it is, enough to tell my own story. This erotic novel stuff might be next that you were speaking about.
I'll put you in touch with them.
We're looking for live readers for the audio book too.
For the erotic novel.
Yeah, you could practice for your audio book.
Well, Ron Jeremy got a gig in the live role, so I reckon I can be behind.
He
the
had a
mic.
skill set.
True.
Well,
True.
a talent.
An asset.
Yeah, an asset. That'd be the one.
I got a bit of confidence from that. I sent it to some mentors at the War Memorial, very well educated humans. They're like, you can write. So I thought I'd had something, and I guess I felt maybe like you did when you went into politics. I'm like, I've got a fucking chance here. I got a good chance.
Oh, look, to be fair, mine was I was comparing
now you
myself
are
to a bunch of. Oh wow!
Sorry,
Wow,
it was there.
he's a long way. This is a long way from home. Al.
That is a big
with
shot.
with no ride home,
Literally 2,000 kilometers from anywhere,
isn't it?
I know. The desert,
I'll roll
a
that
lot of
van.
secrets.
I'll roll that van deliberately. I'll do it.
Fuck. I know he will. I saw him almost roll the van, and he didn't even mean to. So he could easily do it. This is a really long answer. Probably long story short, because the publishers don't reply to you. They just don't. They get I don't know, hundreds, thousands.
Did that feel like a rejection or just like
absolutely,
whatever? Okay.
absolutely. They say by a certain time, if we don't hear from us, then it's not happening. So from the minute I press send on that email,
Timer.
refresh.
Oh, yeah.
Refresh. And it's like, listen, it could be 6 months. I'm like, refresh.
Yeah. I don't have access to our stats because that'd be me, and I'd be going crazy at the moment, not having reception.
Yeah. So, mate,
Don't say it's weird that you get feedback from people that don't know you, and you take that on board so much more than like friends and family.
Well, I guess you do.
But it's like everybody we've spoken to
Yeah.
has been like, oh, like my wife said this or my husband said this and whatever. And they're like, then random guy on the street was like, hey, that's really good. And you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Like it's a shame that.
Well, there's two parts to that because one, you obviously really, respect what your friends and family say, right? And you hope that they're in your corner and they're going to give you the real story. But there's also a bit of them that are not like your mum and your close people. And, they've taught you how to use a spoon, right? They've taught you everything. They're not going to cut you down. And I surrounded myself with a whole bunch of mates who were happy to cut me down. I'm sitting amongst a few tonight. But so I got a bit of that. But everyone, the majority of people around you are nice and want to support you. So it's a bit of that. Some randos on the street will give you actual feedback, and that feedback was positive. But the other side to that is don't look for validation of what you do, especially by people you don't know, because the reality is, who gives a shit about what you think? And if you think mine's a shit story or whatever it is, I sort of go on a bit of a rant at the end of the book. There's a bit of that. And what I try to talk about is if you've read my book and you think, oh, well, I've done it harder, I've jumped out of more planes, or I wasn't whatever. I was a Navy SEAL, whatever it is, then you know what? You don't read my book. I don't want you to read my book. If you're going to be that guy and thinks that you've done it tougher and better, I'm trying to write a book as a soldier for soldiers to try and share just a soldier's experience, and I hope that resonates with people, because I'm not looking for validation from anyone about this book, and that is the reality I'm at now. And I think if you're always looking for validation through social media for shit from other people, especially people you don't know, then you're probably in the wrong fucking spot, because you're probably not living your best life.
You've spoken to Jared Gandry.
Yep.
We had him on, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, mate, once you've done it and it's your art,
yep,
you've done your part.
Yeah.
How it's received that's on the individual person.
Exactly right.
They can hate it, love it, do whatever. It doesn't change.
Especially with a book,
yours.
like when you hit send on that manuscript, you would be like, I've polished this thing, it's ready.
Shitting myself.
Because you wouldn't hit send if you weren't.
Yep. So
you weren't happy with it.
Through that process, it's so weird putting your life story out there. I just can't believe that's happening. But it's you got to go through so many read-throughs when the publisher sends it back, and there's a lot of I dotting and T crossing and N rules or whatever it's called, and commas here and there. But
put a bunch of N words in there.
N rule.
Oh, gotcha, right.
Yeah. No, you don't.
I didn't learn what that is.
You
in
don't
English.
got me. It's a long fucking dash thing.
Does it go like up and down?
No.
Oh, well, anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't know what it was either. Anyway, it's all my words. So they come and fix all that up, but every time stuff's fixed, they say, "Oh, we want you to do a read through." So I would do a full read through, and I would change stuff, and I'd be like, "Shit, that doesn't make sense. How did I miss that in the first place? And this doesn't make sense." Or that.
So did you read it out loud and then go, that didn't sound right in your head?
I did at the start when I was reading it off the paper, because I found it was so much easier to read off paper and fix it, like to literally red pen shit. But then later it's on the computer screen, so it's quicker. But, mate, I was still stuffing up things in the latter parts of the manuscript, like calling Lavs Bushmasters and just weird shit. And I was picking up at the end. And then I thought, this is not ready. I can't let this go. I cannot let the publisher take this and make a book out of it, because I'm going to get shit wrong, and people are going to pick that apart. When it came time to so many read-throughs, and case in point, good mate of mine, he's written a book 5 years ago that every time he picks it up, he changes something.
And he's self-published, though.
No, he hasn't self-published yet. But
also, it's not even published yet.
Is there a distinction between self-published and published, per se?
Oh, I didn't know there was until somebody told me multiple times.
He's not going to let it go, is he? He's filthy about it. No, he's not. He's a good dude. Okay, so self-publish is you take on all the commercial risk. You publish your own book, publish through a commercial publisher. Big Sky Publishing means that they take on all that risk, and they do all the all the distribution, the printing, everything.
Marketing,
The lot, yeah. Anyway, so going back to finishing off
how'd
your
you get
manuscript.
under Big Sky?
Oh, well, like we know.
Good.
But
there's no need to go into that though.
at one point, you have to let it go. You have to let your words go.
Yep.
And that was the scariest fucking moment. It was like I was fucking 19 and jumping out the door of a Herc again. I was shitting myself, pretending to be brave in front of everyone else, but I was doing it because everyone else was. But letting it go. And there was a moment on the 1 millionth read through I had to do and say, yes, this is right, and let it go. And that was the moment. It was like a weight off my shoulders. It was freaky. Because from now on, I don't get to change anything. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be something in there that's wrong. And if you get hung up on that, also don't read my book. I don't give a shit. I hope that you read the story.
Buy his book and then
But
be as
letting
shitty as
it
you
go.
want.
Yeah. Pick it apart. Do it.
Yeah.
But, once you let it go, that was the scariest moment because it's out of my hands now. It's out there. It's getting printed somewhere overseas, and it'll come back and it'll be in a book, and people can get into it and read it as much as you can. But it's out of my hands. I can't change anything, and it is what it is.
It's funny, I find with like Aussies a lot of the time, like the whole tall poppy syndrome. Like it goes. It's almost hand in hand with imposter because you're scared if you do put your hand out, and if it, like say for example, if it is successful, and heaps of people start reading it and it gets a bit of traction, that's going to come with more criticism.
Yep.
So it's like the better you do, the more scared you'll be.
Yeah, mate. People are
like even when you were saying they were talking to you about making it, that what is it? And it was going to be The Australian Soldier?
Yep.
Or something like that?
It was going to be, the book title was going to be called Australian Soldier. And I had a big problem with that because I don't, it's a weighty title.
Oh, it was funny when you said it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. So
The
I was,
Australian
no,
Soldier.
just Australian Soldier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not carrying that title.
Mm.
Like, look at the people in the Roll of Honour. There's people that have had so much worse day that deserve to be Australian Soldier, the Australian Soldier, right? Anyway, we whittled it down to an Australian Soldier, but yeah, it was never going to.
But that's a sub part of it now.
That is now a subtitle because there's something about metadata searches and the way people search. I don't pretend to understand it, but
which is why you go through publishers.
Yep.
Because they know all that stuff.
and it's an Australian Soldier because I don't pretend to be certainly not even a very good one. So that's the subtitle. But yeah, absolutely right. Everyone is you're worried about being that person who sticks their neck out, and being seen as an imposter when the reality of it is we're all kind of like ducks on a pond. We're we pretend we're killing it up top, but down below we're panicking. Underneath.
Well, I wanted to
Feet are going
circle
a million
back
miles
to the
an hour.
title for that reason. So stop screaming, I'm scared too. I think something we've found out a lot now is you find out after your career that everybody around you was shitting themselves or wasn't confident, but nobody talks
Absolutely.
about it at the time.
Nope, because
So-
you've got to put on that brave face, right?
Yep.
To be fair, in our job, if we looked like we were shitting ourselves,
You're gone.
it didn't go well for
You
everyone
have to
else.
have a face of confidence.
Your magnet is on the roof.
Yeah.
Straight away, you're off the board.
There was a lot of lols though, like when you'd see dudes and the poor bastards have been they'd been like awake for 4 days. They get in, they'd be like wrapping it out. We'd get a camera out, start filming them, and you're like, oh, you do a bunt, which is when the chopper goes up and then comes down, and then you look at them and you're like, you're like, you see, look at them, you're screaming, and then there.
So they go into negative G and everything flies up and they think that they're plummeting to their death.
yeah,
God, that's
good gags.
That's actually really bad. We would do that all the time.
In hindsight, my bad, boys.
Yeah, maybe that was really bad. But yeah, no, that title came from a helmet patch that I used to wear in Afghanistan. And I don't pretend to be the first person that wore it. I got the idea from a good mate of mine, Matty Cole, who I knew from even before sixth grade.
Matty Cole's too obvious. M Cole.
M Cole. Wait,
Matthew C.
Matthew C. Yeah. So got that, and it's been, you can see it on the internet. Back even in the Vietnam era, people wearing it, and I just wore it as a bit of a piss take and people that run up the ramp and jump on board and would get a bit of a laugh at it because you have to hold that stoic, And I remember when I was a grunt and I got on board helicopters, I'm like, have a look at this bloke. And I talk about it in my book. This bloke looks, yes, there's women crews too. Anyway, but have a look at this crewman sitting next to me. They're killing it, right? They look so confident.
You just have your dark visor down so no one can see you.
Yeah.
Yep. But they're doing stuff and they're writing stuff down and they're talking. They're like, this person's got it sorted. I don't even know what I'm doing for lunch. This person's got it sorted. They're killing it. They are professional. Fast forward a few years,
Mate, toll books. You get a book out. There's like graphs and shit. You see a loadie doing that. You're like, this dude's a genius.
Yep. It's some sort of dark art.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you go, oh, hang on. Anyone who could, this is not Pythagoras theorem or some shit.
No, that's why there's graphs, because we can't make
a chart. Yeah. If you can literally follow a chart, you can sort this shit out.
Like if you could do maths, you didn't need that book.
Yep.
That's why we had the book.
Yep. And not run into shit, right?
Yeah.
But it does reinforce everybody's scared to have a crack at something.
Yeah.
Everybody's unsure whether they're going to succeed. But the people that do are the ones that just show up.
Yep.
And you can fail, you go again, just keep having a crack.
But that's the majority of people, right? The majority of people are actually exactly in that band. They do, and they just make it happen. It's the people that admit that they're struggling with shit, and we don't do it. We don't do it while we're doing the job because we know what happens if you do. Like if I was saying I was struggling with bloody mental health issues in the army towards the end of it, I'd be out.
Grounded.
100% grounded. If I was talking about how bad my back and knees were whilst I was flying, grounded. So
harden up.
Same sort of shit. So you keep that, you bottle that shit up, and you hide it. And I know, from talking to Ben and you blokes from the cops, it's the same shit on the road. If you're seen as someone who can't hack it, then you're out. When the reality is, none of us are hacking it. We're all just putting on a brave face for some bullshit, right?
Bro, there's no time out in cops. You're like, man, I'm having a pretty shit one. They're like,
yep,
gun away. You are going to sit at home and isolate. Now you're a declarable association. No one is to speak to that man except for the welfare officer.
Yeah.
There's no personal anecdotes whatsoever.
Fuck, mate.
Just general storytelling.
Nothing to look into here.
Someone's scared.
This is why you need that going back.
Yeah, that'll be edited.
Yeah. That is the reality, though. I mean, everyone's fucking freaking out about something. Everyone's not killing it. We pretend to be, but we're not. And probably those people who think they are probably full of shit.
There are people that are like psychopaths that are actually legitimately killing it.
I wonder what it'd be like to be on that plane.
Well, so they reckon emergency services have a lot of psychopaths, and it's
high
actually
percentage.
Yeah, and it's like a real benefit.
Am I sitting with two of them right now?
Well, you're in
the desert.
not the right place to be with psychopaths, especially with the dingoes around here. No, but like because you can take stuff on without it emotionally affecting you and stuff like that. So,
well, you need to, right? You need to have,
and they reckon there's a lot of CEOs that do the same sort of thing.
Yeah, well, it's all about carrying, the burden. And you guys have been some of the stories that I hear about with you guys.
Moving on.
Yep. With various, you go to a traffic accident. I mean, that's awful. To put it mildly, awful.
Oh, you can fall to pieces out there.
Yep. And I think about, I can't relate to that happening, but I think about, I went to a mass gravesite and I see how awful that is. And that's the reality of what a lot of, coppers and first responders have to deal with. And I know we banged on about this story the other day, but the reality is that for soldiers, and I'm blowing smoke up the cops' ass here, but for soldiers, when we go overseas, that's left behind. And we don't see that anymore. That happened in Afghanistan, that happened in East Timor, wherever it is. For you, it's around the corner. It's that house there. It's that intersection. And I think maybe people need to really understand that a lot more and probably give cops a bit more leeway to be able to put their hand up and say that they're having some fucking struggles.
I don't know which, because it's so common. Like I can go through the city and go, there's a bloke who cut himself with glass there, or somebody jumped off that building, or whatever else it is. But because it's all day, every day, I wonder if it's like that. What do they call it? With exposure therapy.
Well, the frog in the boiling water doesn't hop out.
Yeah. No, but I was getting more to the fact that it's not as triggering for me because I'm there all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with you guys, it's a certain smell sets you off, and you haven't smelled it in 6 years, and it sort of ambushes you.
Yeah,
so I don't know which one.
It's a good way of thinking.
Because I know they do like exposure therapy and stuff where they try and make it so it doesn't trigger you as much.
Yeah.
But so I'm just wondering if that's why coffee.
Mate, that's got merit.
Potentially.
But
PhD.
think about, mate,
sheepdog whiskey.
We need more sheepdog whiskey. Who knows where it end up? But think about what that's doing to your brain to be in that constant state all the time, thinking about that. Oh, that's where meth head died, or that's where a lovely family died, or mate with a knife.
I got to my latest job, and then we were like, oh look, my boss was like, look at that window, it's beautiful, the shrine's over there, and this and that. I was like, see that Macca's over there, first murder. Unfortunate, because now I've just ruined that view for her.
And they're like, you're fun at parties.
Yeah. Certain parties, which they're pretty rare.
But it does. It changes your brain. Those exposures to those things change your brain, and there is a lot of science out there. And I don't pretend to be a fucking brainologist, but there's a lot of
case in point.
Yeah, edit that one out, make it sound smart. There's a lot of science out there that talks about the impact upon the brain and the way your neurons fire when you're used to so much cortisol searching through you, that fucking stress hormone, right? What it does, it screws up those synapses, and they've done studies where they see brains light up that are, the happy, normal brain, and then the anxious brain. And there's so many different things not firing in the anxious brain. And the reason I bang on about that is because there's so many medications out there. There's so many different counselors out there. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't see them and you shouldn't take those things, but there are so many different ways to fix that brain. And one of them you've touched on with is exposure therapy in all different ways, whether it's through sitting down with a psychologist or maybe just being in that space all the time. But at the end of the day, that may not work because that's going to end and may come crashing down. So the ways to fix that is, first of all, obviously putting your hand up and saying, you know what, I'm struggling here. And I think maybe as a society, well, as a first responder society, we've turned a corner and it's not such a thing that we don't talk about anymore. And this podcast and other podcasts are out there and they're doing a fucking great job at not normalizing, but allowing you to say, you know what, I'm fucking not killing it. I'm not killing it right now.
But I'm not killing myself, so.
Yeah.
I think
they hate that. They hate it. I just think you're allowed to, maybe not normalize it, but you can have a laugh.
My issue with stigma is like, it's we shouldn't have a stigma to talk about it. I'm happy to talk to another mate of mine if I'm not doing well, or if he's not doing well, we can have a chat.
Yep.
The stigma becomes speaking to your boss.
Yeah.
Because that boss is under an obligation to then have a certain response.
Yes.
And that response leads to your career being over.
Yep. So there used to be certain procedures in the army. Let's take, for instance, if you go DUI, they would stop you from driving a vehicle, obviously service vehicle, take access to weapons away. Same thing happened to me when the doctors put me on sick leave. I wasn't allowed to carry a weapon, drive a service vehicle, anything like that. So immediately I'm like, well, how can I be at work? So then I'm off work straight away. Or if you're not doing your normal job, everyone's like, what's wrong with this dude? Why isn't he here? So straight away I'm like, well, actually, I'll take the not at work because I don't want people wondering what the hell's going on. They need to look at the way they fix that, because that is what that is. That's that stigma that you think is attached to it that may or may not be there. But the reality is it is there through through the writing. And I understand why the writing's there. It has to be.
But it needs to be that you like, if you can pipe up, like say for example, Clay was talking to us about how he went to one too many like kids that had drowned in a pool.
Yep.
If he'd voiced that opinion and then they'd said, you know what, mate, take 3 weeks off.
Yep.
We're going to go and do this for you. And then you let us know when you're ready to come back.
Mm-hmm.
He would then be going, you know what, I should have said this 2 people ago.
Yep.
Whereas
not stand here, right, from this point on, you will not do this, you will not do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You no longer work for us.
Yeah, have an adult conversation instead of having an ass covering conversation.
Yep.
Ass covering procedure to take you away from that because you then need to report up that you've done this so you don't get in trouble.
So like the easy with the police and the army, the easy thing is take away his firearm. If he kills himself in a car crash on the way home, that's not on us.
Yep.
Like they're going to do it the same way.
And the person that reports it to you is not the one you're going to have to worry about. It's the one that doesn't put their hand up and say something.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Anyway, so books and stuff.
Books and stuff. Can I? Well,
okay, fine.
I'll circle back to that crazy brain firing thing. So they seem to think that one of the ways, besides different types of medication, psychotherapy, that ketamine can help fix those synapses in that anxious brain.
Psilocybin also has been had and stuff.
They have, and MDMA and all this stuff they're trialing. But if half of what they say is true from what they see about ketamine, then I'm all on board, and I'm about to step off and do that. Not too long after I get back. Mm-hmm. I'm doing the trial through. I'd love to be able to say who they are. It's through Department of Veteran Affairs.
Oh, I thought you were about to say
I'm
the
not
Rebels Motorcycle Club.
I'm not the back alley. I'm not the back alley getting it into me. It's in a proper medical setting, and to see how that helps. So that's something.
Would you be happy to come back and tell us about that?
I would. I would, mate. Because I'm not saying it's the silver bullet, but
no, not at all.
If it helps in just a little way, then I'll be interested to give it a crack. Because I really, it scares the shit out of me seeing or hearing things that aren't there, and they microdose it so that you won't necessarily get to that point. So I'm really interested to see what happens, because I've been through mental health hospitals where you literally line up at the window and get your medication and have to show, like, open your mouth and show you've had it in dressing gowns and shit. Right,
like Jack Nicklaus styles.
One flow of the cookiness shit. Yeah, mate. Yeah, I've been there. I've been different psychs, different medications. So one note there: don't ever give up. Don't ever think that one thing's going to fit everyone. Keep trying at something, but there may be something else. So keep cracking on, and trying everything. Yeah. And the other point is that right at the end of writing my book, I'm like finished. I'm ready to let it go, and it's done. And Royal Commission rings me up. DVA, Royal Commission.
Yep.
And they said to me, "We want to speak to you about a submission that you made." And I'm like, well, "What?" And they said, "Well, we love your submission that you put in 2 years ago. We want to table it as part of the submission that goes to Parliament." And I just, I did it, and I didn't think anyone would ever read it. And I made two submissions. One was that we need to pay our mental health professionals more, because the rate that DVA patients get is a lot less than what people get from the NDIS or from government agencies. Don't quote me on this, people, if you're from NDIS. But there's a lot more other departments that pay through their EAP program more for their patients than what DVA does. So when you go and see a mental health professional through DVA, you tend to get someone who's less experienced, or because they work at a lower rate. And so that was one of the things I
like when you get a public service lawyer, versus the
it's kind of like
one that'll get you off.
It's like a, what do they call them? Yeah, public defender. Yeah.
I mean, some of them are good. I don't want to rag on all of them.
And I don't want to rag on them. They're doing a great. And you know what? Some of them are on the other end of their careers that are just doing it for the love and to help, right? But there are a lot that they're fresh out of uni and they're happy to work for that rate. And so it's, some of it's been my experience where you may not get as good a help as you could get from anyone else who goes through an EAP, right? The other one is we need to look at the way we train people. We train people to move towards danger, and that's the fundamental truth of it. You train people to act instinctively to the word of command, and you train people to move towards danger, and that's true. Ambos, fireys, cops, and soldiers. That's one thing we all have in common, is that organization will train you to override your primal instinct to not go towards that danger and go and do it while people are coming the other way. And if you think about what goes into training you to do that, it's not an accident. Everything
doesn't happen overnight either.
No, it takes a long time, and they know what they're doing. There's psychologists that know how the brain learns. There's people from education that know that, lessons should be 40 minutes. And why is that? Because people start losing attention right through to, the way we work outside. Everything, the smallest detail is there to be efficient for you to learn how to do this. Now, there's no unlearning. There is no unlearning.
Yeah, there's no stand down course.
No, there's not. I mean, there's a couple of days where you talk about what to do with your finances and stuff, but there's no untraining.
And that's mandatory because you're like, I'm not going to that.
And you're hungover all the time. Yeah. But there's no untraining of that brain. And I know it's a simple thing to say, and what that untraining process is, I don't know. But they've figured out how to train you to run towards gunfire.
And then the switch never gets turned off, but you're a civilian.
And I'm not running towards gunfire anymore, but how do you stop that hypervigilance? And you need a certain amount of hypervigilance, but how do you turn it off? If they found a way to turn it on, I feel that they need to really investigate
their duty into
how to do it. Look, mate, they do. Yeah, that's so. I put that in the end of the book too, and the publisher's like, "Oh God, just stop writing."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "No, you open this genie. You open this bottle. The genie's out now. You get all my crazy."
Much like this podcast.
Yeah, sorry. Is this the longest, most boring one you've done?
No.
So the book's on pre-order.
We've had longer, but
it is
not more boring.
It is. Is that because the whiskey's run out? The book is on pre-order now. You can pre-order it online anywhere you buy your books, through Big Sky Publishing as well.
And you're signing them at the moment?
I am signing them. You can buy them from my website as well. I honestly don't have a lot left to sign. It's not some
this is a great sales pitch. I love it.
Jump in and buy it now. Excuse me. But I do have some left, and each one I sell on my website, I will sign and send out, and it's not going to be some stamp. I will do an itemised signing. It won't be, like tell me you love balls or something.
No, you can't request.
Oh God.
Is there a notes part
Just
on there?
No. Just say no. Just stop talking. No, I will sign it. And, again, imposter. Who the fuck am I to sign shit?
Mate, I was signing core flutes in the election. It was funny the first time, and then people loved it. I was like, this is bizarre.
This is bizarre. Who am I to fucking be signing
And it's funny too because even then, like you'll put on a character then because it won't be you won't feel comfortable with it. But you can, you can see the amusing part in it.
You put up a
yeah. Now you're a jovial character. You're like, yeah, I'll sign anything, mate. You know how I am.
Yeah.
Like, look at us, sheepdog.
But by the end of it, you must be just fucking worn out.
Oh yeah.
After you have to put up that facade for a long time.
Well, that's the thing because you go from like playing cop, and then you go to playing this, and then and the funniest thing is when with the imposter stuff, it comes to Jared called this art, which I still find hilarious.
Loosely.
But he just looked.
I asked him about it too. Yeah. How does he get on with it?
Yeah, but he literally just looked at us. He goes, "This is your art." He's like, "You were creating something for people to listen to, etc., etc." He goes, "Some people sing songs. You guys are just talking."
Yep.
And then it just got awkward then, so we just told him to leave. But and then he told us to buy camera roll, and he walked out the window.
Yeah, he's pressing that, isn't he?
Yeah,
get camera roll. Actually, it's very good toilet paper. That is true. It is actually very good toilet paper. Yeah. That is
we
what
took
I
some
got
photos
from
out here before.
It's
did he give you some as well?
Yeah, I got some.
Oh, great! I wonder, does he have your business card?
Well, I'm not sure because he gave me a roll for free, and I'm wondering, is this,
we got 3.
Do I have to give him a book for free? I mean, he can still wipe his ass with it. So he'll be right.
Is it a great toilet read? People still do that, read books in the toilet.
Mine? What?
No, just in general. Remember, I guess so. Used to be books people used to read books in the toilet.
Yeah.
Like newspaper, but
people just scroll mindlessly on their phone now, looking at people getting hit in the nuts.
True. That's what you have to read. What's his name? Transverse or whatever it is. What's his magazine? Traverse.
God, where were you going with that? You're reading some tranny book on the...
I was so confused. That's why I was made on.
Where did that go?
Yeah, Traverse magazine. Anyway, get around.
Absolutely not admitting to
anything.
anything.
Let me segue to when this inevitably becomes an audio book. And
I told you this wasn't going to go well.
I know you're holding out for Russell Crowe, but
Yes.
you've got a great story. You speak
Thank
very
you.
well. I would love to hear it narrated by yourself one day.
We'll lend you the gear, mate. You can start this
Yeah.
on ketamine.
Actually, that's
mate, that is a draw card. That is a draw card.
3.75 speed.
Yeah.
fucking rainbow. Yeah, look, Russell Crowe. Mate, love the voice. Love the Australian voice.
If you get Russell, he
Yep.
can
Russell,
do it,
if you're
but
looking
not,
for a passion project and
you
you
should
want to
read it.
slum it, come and read my book.
I reckon we're a better chance of getting Sheepdog Whiskey to sponsor us. Sheepdog Whiskey.
Russell Crowe. Oh, look, any of the Hemsworths, even the bad ones. I'll take all you.
But why do you think
I'll go Banner.
you reading it, Eric?
Yeah.
Mate, that's
if
his
he's
safety.
keen. Yeah, that's his safety.
Yeah. He has to read a lot. He has to read it in the voice of Hoot.
Oh, I don't know. I want the Australian voice.
Yeah.
He's good in the dry as
You know
well.
who's got an Australian voice and probably knows his story really well?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew
What?
that was an open question. I got led into that one. Yeah, but there's a certain amount of words you're allowed to miss apparently in an audio book.
Okay, so don't miss them.
Well,
You wrote it.
fuck. That took a long time.
Yeah.
Have you seen me try and read the shit I do here?
Yeah.
It's hard. But because you also know your story so well, and holy shit, I've read my story so many times now. I'd rather. Anyway, it's a good book.
We'll
read
make
it.
this an
You know
official
what?
challenge. It was just a request at the moment.
But
yeah,
you-
like we were trying to be nice.
If you read your own book, you tend to skip over the finer details because you know the story, and you go into a storytelling instead of reading mode. Apparently, is what they say.
But now
Yeah.
you're aware of that, so it won't happen.
Yeah, so you know the pitfalls.
Well, I guess it'd be like doing a podcast of your book. I don't know.
Yeah, and you've seen how professional we are.
Look, I'm holding out for Russell Crowe. All right, get him on. Is there a
I'll
phone
ring him
thing?
now. I'll get him right now. Hang on. Russ.
Oh shit, that's right.
Oh, I didn't
We're
get my
somewhere near
Starlink.
the
If
Northern
I had my
Territory.
Starlink, we could have FaceTimed him.
All right, Russell
Well,
Crowe.
I think it's time for
Elon Musk
Full
Starlink.
Sheepdog
disclosure.
Whiskey with the group.
Full disclosure, I don't like the bunnies either. I'm all about the Knights. Sorry, Russ.
Oh, jeez. You're double not getting him now.
Okay, can you edit that out? Because that's not gonna help me.
If Russell listens to this, mate, you're in trouble. And I'm pretty sure you're safe.
I'm pretty sure that's not
Yeah.
happening.
Look, to be fair, I've literally got to get the Deleca out of the desert first
Yep.
before we can put this up.
Yeah,
so
true.
There's about 80 levels of safety you've got at the
Yeah.
moment.
One day to go. And thank you for joining us on the
Yeah,
Imposter
boys.
podcast
Thanks
in
for
the
having me
centre of the Simpson Desert.
Mate, thanks very much, boys. It's been a laugh.
I'd
I
play
look
the
forward
outro
to-
music, but
Last couple of days of this journey, and if anyone is out there that is thinking about, doing something crazy like crossing the Simpson Desert, this is our country. Get out here, see it, be part of it, and do it with a bunch of fucking crazy, funny dudes that you've probably got a lot in common with Frontline Safari. So come along.
don't want to give a shout out to Peter Hanlon.
I do want to give a shout out to Peter
Yeah,
Hanlon.
thought you would.
I haven't met him in person. He's coming to my book launch. Absolute legend, who is also a published author through Big Sky Publishing, who helped me out a lot with getting a look in there too. So
I'm gonna. We've been speaking to him. We'll either go to Brizzy or he's coming down. We're gonna get him on as well. So that'll be a win.
yeah, beauty.
He's got a second book coming out.
Yeah, so I hear.
But, what's your second book going to be called? Don't look at me. I'm still a coward.
Hey, that's mine. You can't steal that.
Wow, it's
all right?
trademarked.
You
Great
can't steal
follow-up
that.
title.
It's on there. You've now got this. All right, we're out.
This is descending. All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Or anyone else would quit. And you're not gonna stop there. So
Just do it.
make your dreams come true.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
Nothing
Just do it.
do it. Make your dreams come true.
Simple.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Yesterday you said no. You're gonna wake up and work hard at. You're gonna wake up and stop giving up. You're gonna wake up and work hard at. You're gonna wake up and make your dreams come true. Don't let your dreams be dreams. What are you waiting for? Yesterday you said tomorrow. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Yesterday